Howdy.
Hi. Welcome to Hugo Girl, the podcast where we read Hugo Award-winning novels and discuss them. And today, we're going to discuss not a Hugo Award-winning novel, which I actually forgot.
Sometimes we read other stuff.
It won for presentation, though.
Yeah.
The book didn't win.
Well, let me tell you what we're discussing. It's 2001: A Space Odyssey, the film and the book. The film won the Hugo in 1969 for Best Dramatic Presentation, and the book did not win a Hugo ever, and was not nominated either, but it's good. So we're going to talk about both of them. How's it going, guys?
It's going okay.
Yeah, right. I shouldn't have asked that.
I'm not having a great week.
Yeah. Well, on that subject, we did our fundraiser for abortion providers.
Yes, we did.
And we did a raffle. Thank you so much to everybody who donated. So we raised a little over $2,000.
Good job, everybody.
Y'all raised a little over $2,000.
Yes.
So thank you.
It is amazing how much people donated, and the generosity just astounded us. It was amazing.
I felt so much better that couple of weeks after when we were doing that. I was really amazed at how good that made me feel to see how many people who would not be directly affected by something, at least a few spaces down the line, I guess.
Yeah.
Who cared and contributed. So that was amazing. So our friend Steven in California was the winner. And so
Hi, Steven.
Hi, Steven.
Yeah.
He is considering between Nova by Samuel R. Delaney and The Sparrow by Mary Dora.
I think it's Maria Dor.
Maria Dor Russell. Let's just find out. We've got the whole internet
I think
right
she
here.
also wrote the Book of Strange New Things. She's good. Me and Amy read The Sparrow for a book club like 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh,
It's very good. Yeah.
Mary Doria Russell.
Oh, that's right. I was not close.
great.
Could be Doria. We'll go with Doria.
Thank you. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. Whenever he picks, we will add that to the schedule.
Feel free to try and bully him on the internet into choosing one or the other.
Or a horse book for Lauren.
Yeah, Steven, it's not too late to change your mind and go with Misty of Chincoteague.
I think we should make her read, was it British horses you didn't care about or American horses you didn't care about?
British horses.
I think we should, Stephen, you could make her read a British horse book, which would be interesting.
And plus, I am agnostic in my dislike of horses. So.
Okay. I wanted to say hi to our friends and co-finalists, Octothorpe Podcast, just because they're nice and we have a lot of back and forth with them.
Hello.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That was Amy being a British person or the little wall worm from Labyrinth.
Or a chimney sweep.
Would you like to come inside, have a cup of tea?
Oh, no.
The wall worm.
Come in, see the missus.
Come inside, have a cup of tea.
They now have to do Georgia accents to mock us.
Yeah.
You can have an accent off.
Y'all have some sweet tea. That's not it. And I'm from the South. What just happened? I don't know.
Anyway. Hi.
That was the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Hi to Allison and John and Liz. We like you guys. We're excited to meet you at Worldcon. You two are
y'all
embarrassing me in front of my podcast friends.
Come get a cup of sweet tea.
It's hard to pretend to be a British person doing a Southern accent. It's like, I'm like Madonna. It's hard.
That was amazing.
Okay, book time?
And movie time.
And movie time. Okay, so this was requested by our friend Guilherme on Twitter. And like I mentioned before, the movie won the Hugo for Best Dramatic Presentation in 1969. That was my French accent.
That was good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Emmanuel.
How many of our friends can we alienate with our bad accents?
I could do Canadian later.
On this,
right
the day
there.
of Canada. Let's see. So, a little context. 2001: A Space Odyssey, the movie, was directed by Stanley Kubrick, and Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick co-wrote the screenplay. And it's often described as being based on Arthur C. Clarke's short story, The Sentinel, but Clarke, in his foreword or introduction to the Millennium edition of the book, calls that an oversimplification, like describing the relationship between an acorn and an oak tree.
Deep.
So that's a statement that he made. So a little bit about the book. Was published in 1968, and Arthur C. Clarke is the credited author. It was developed concurrently with the film version and published a little bit after the release of the film. They worked on the book together. By 1992, the novel had sold 3 million copies worldwide.
Is that a lot?
I didn't consider whether or not that was a lot.
than
It
I've
just
sold.
sounds like a lot.
I haven't sold that many. That's true.
It's yeah, I don't know if compared to what? compared to how many books I've sold, no.
My to be released short story / novel has gotten 79 views on Wattpad.
Okay, so
I'm
more
still-
than that. Yes.
I'm still waiting for a link I could make that 80. And since I tend to look
She
at things
doesn't
more
wanna
than
see
once,
it
I
yet.
can make it like 83.
Well, here's the thing: is that there's no conflict. It's just talking about eating.
That's fine. I eat every day.
I know.
Sometimes I have conflict with eating. Have you ever thought about that?
That's true.
Yeah, we can bring our own conflict. Okay. Plot summary. This is hard. Sort of scattered. I wrote some of it and then I was like, I'll go back and smooth this out, and I didn't. So buckle up.
I feel like this could be really short or like a million pages
Yeah,
long.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna go with
agreed.
I'm gonna go lean towards
In
the side
the
of
dawn
short.
of time.
In the beginning. Yeah, so the book and movie are a space travelogue. The book is officially divided into 6 parts, but to me it feels more like there are 3 major parts. The first part follows a group of prehistoric hominids in prehistory Africa who start to develop intelligence thanks to the influence of a big monolith that is basically the first ever screen time that early humans had. The second part takes place in the late 1990s following the discovery of a similar monolith that is buried on the moon and sends out a signal that ends up being traceable to Jupiter, Saturn area. The general area.
Those big ones.
Ultimately, there's a moon involved. It's confusing. It's confusing for the characters.
Depending on whether you're in the book or the movie, it's very
Exactly.
different.
Yeah, exactly.
Japetus, is that his name?
According to the audiobook, it's Iapetus.
Oh.
Okay, and then the third part. Yeah, exactly. The third part follows the voyage of a small crew led by Captain David Bowman, and they are seeking out the origin of the monolith and signals, although David does not know that early on. The space voyage makes up the bulk of the story. Their ship is called the Discovery, and it has a 5-human crew plus an AI. 3 of the humans are in cryosleep, and 2 of them are awake, Dave and Frank. The AI, HAL 9000, pilots the ship, and he performs most of its essential functions. And in both the book and the movie, HAL goes off the rails and murders Frank and 3 of the 3 sleeping crew members. HAL's motives differ in the book and the movie, I think, importantly. But in both of them, Dave narrowly escapes death by HAL, and then he goes on alone to find the makers of the monolith, and he evolves into a higher life form, which happens to be a baby. Because why not? Just be a baby. In general, the book and the movie are very similar. Anything you guys want to add over that several million-year span of plot summary?
That's a pretty good job.
Yeah. Good
Thanks,
job.
buddies. Okay. Goodies from Goodreads?
I think my favorite one came off Amazon. It's a 1-star review from a user who calls himself or herself Lit Major.
Okay.
I am a literature major.
Oh, credentials.
This
Username checks out.
This person has bona fides.
I'm also a literature major.
I am also a literature major.
Third.
What's your major, Kevin?
Psychology and sociology.
That checks out.
Psychology and sociology, if that didn't pick up.
I am a literature major, so please know that I am not giving a biased and uncalled for opinion. Apparently, being a literature major gives you perfect objectivity.
This was not called for.
But if they're right and we're right, then I guess we have to kill the whole crew.
I've read many books, and I have even liked those books that most people detest. However, I must say 2001 A Space Odyssey is not all that great. It's boring. Takes forever to get to the point, and truly pointless.
Debatable.
Also, that's not good English. The movie is even worse. In reality, the movie came first and then the book. It is usually the other way around.
Oh, insight.
Both are horrific. The end.
Horrific. It's a big leap from boring to horrific. All right, Haley, goodies from Goodreads.
I have 2 from Goodreads. Jules said, 1.5. Bad book, not good. Let me film a masterpiece. This not. I think he's one of the monkeys in the beginning.
I was going to say.
Then I have one from, this is about the movie from Google Reviews. And so, as we will discuss, the movie is very polarizing. People either love it or they despise it. But Glory at Google Reviews gave it 1 star and said, this movie is undeniably an incredible feat of 60 cinema, but beautiful cinematography does not equate a good movie. It was painful to watch. Physically painful on my ears with all the annoying repetitive sounds. From the 20-minute monkey screeching all the way to the uncomfortable heavy breathing. I mean, I can kind of see that. It got interesting there for an hour in the middle and then descended into complete madness. I recommend you watch it.
You know, a lot. I recommend interesting. A lot of people said the same thing about the book. Like it gets good there for a bit, and then
Oh, I definitely skimmed lots of parts because I'm like, this literally, there's nothing that I could discuss with you guys. It'd be like more about like Jupiter's like ion belt or whatever.
Okay, I have a couple from Goodreads. Brian gave it 1 star, and I guess on Goodreads you can say who might like a book. And so it says, Brian recommends it for people who think science is only for men.
Brian.
And then Ilya gave it 1 star. Couldn't even finish it. Too boring. How can you describe something for a whole chapter? I can't imagine why you would do that. I don't care what they eat on a spaceship. I don't care how works a bathroom. I don't care how you can read a newspaper. I've read 9.5 chapters, and for all this time, nothing's happened.
God, I would read an entire book about space food. My God.
I know.
It is funny, too, because if he's concerned about chapter-long descriptions, he should not read any Charles Dickens or 19th century novels.
People love a description.
Especially when you're getting paid by the word.
Right? Well, this is a slim novel, actually.
Yeah, it's tight.
And a lot of a consistent refrain in the 1-star reviews on Goodreads were boring, 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 boring.
Yeah.
And that's fine. People can be bored. I mean, that's fine. That's your opinion. But it's funny because it really is so short. So I don't know. I guess because we've had to slog through like many a 600-page book that even if I don't think this was boring, but even if I did, I think I would have been like, well, at least it was quick.
I had just read Project Hail Mary right before this.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Andy Weir owes a lot to this book, I think, in a lot of ways, between The Martian and Project Hail Mary. You could talk about some similarities, but just having read that book, which is a tome of a lot of the same thing, this was like zipping through a little short story.
You got your monkeys, you got your moon stuff.
I got how the toilet works. I'm good to go. Like, yeah, I thought, I mean, it was a lot of description, and neither the book or the movie rely heavily on dialogue, you know, in a lot of ways, but I was fine with it.
I think The Martian is a good reference point because I love the book and the movie, and they complement each other so well. Like, the book, you get into his mind, and then the movie is just visually stunning.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I haven't seen The Martian or read it, but I kept thinking of Interstellar. So at the end, when Bowman is behind the Milky Way, that reminded me of when Matthew McConaughey is like in his weird refracted tube of time realities, like looking in from the other side. So I think probably a lot of things owe a lot to this book and movie.
I had seen this before, but I was watching it, a little closer, and like Star Wars and Prometheus and Aliens and like anything you can think of owes a debt to this movie.
And I think anytime you put a spaceman in peril, like, and he has to problem solve, I feel like this laid the blueprint for that in a lot of
Gravity
ways.
with Sandra Bullock, which is a very stressful movie.
It's stressful when you're out in space and
I mean, I
things
think
might go wrong.
Gravity really brings it home. But even like, so there's one part in the movie when like he's going from the pod to the ship, but I was like, don't you need like a tether, son? Like, come on.
Yeah, that was surprising to me. I think
When he was fixing the thing?
Usually there's a tether, but like, whew,
yeah.
nervous.
Yeah, I mean, it just adds to it, I guess. Makes
Space
everything all the more nerve-wracking.
Space is always trying to kill you. Like, it seems so stressful.
I was thinking a lot about the Lady Astronaut books because in those, I don't think you guys have read the rest of the trilogy.
I've read the first 2.
I kept thinking about in those books how Elma says over and over, slow is fast in space. So you want to do something right, you do it slowly so you don't mess it up and kill everybody. And there was, I think, a fair amount of that in here of following the processes.
Which is my biggest complaint about the movie. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm. Lay it on us.
Bowman would never leave his helmet in the spaceship.
Oh, yeah, that was silly.
That was silly. He would never have done that.
Especially when they already suspected Hal of misdeeds.
Thank you. I mean, I know he was like, and I do think I think is supposed to echo a little bit the because in the book there's this parallel between Hal and Bowman with regard to panicking and how that makes, it kind of shows Hal's humanity in this way. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's supposed to show he panicked and made a mistake, and so anything can do
Amy.
this. Listen, I've thought a lot about this.
Extra credit. Check plus.
I did not. Think
I love that.
So maybe if you want to give him some credit, that could be what that was.
I also just thought if you're going to have a Ken doll handsome actor, maybe you don't want him to be in a helmet for too long. Because those men, first of all, I can't tell them apart. They were sitting side by side.
Same.
And I turned to Kevin.
So handsome.
I said,
I love Dave.
I have no idea which one of these men is which.
I thought the other one was more handsome.
I like. Well, yeah, that makes sense.
They both look like Ken dolls to me.
Me too.
But I like the one that lives. He's my favorite.
Yeah, in the end, he's my favorite too. He does the right thing. He seems like a good guy. He's good looking. He's a spaceman. He becomes Star Child. Who does what's not to like?
Yeah.
Both of them had their little thirst trap, little white shorts.
They sure did.
When he was
jogging around,
box in the air.
The camera was right under their butts. I was like, is this Black Widow in a Marvel movie? Like, what is
when
going on?
when he was just laying on his sun table getting his birthday greetings from his parents, and he's just like, could you move the headrest back?
Fluff my pillow.
I know, he's like tanning.
So I have something that I want to include into our Goodreads. So this is actually one of my mother's favorite movies.
Oh.
And so I was talking to her on the phone today, and I was like, well, what do you like? Because I was curious. Like, my mom, I can never figure out my mom's taste in things sometimes. But here's what she said. And this might be grainy, but... Okay, we're recording. Now tell me what you like about Hal.
I have always been lulled into a odd sense of almost infantile security when I listen to Hal speak. Kind of like a mother speaking to a child. His calmness, his self-assurance that he was in charge and going to take care of everything. I just have always thought Hal made the movie.
Oh,
Even though
Heidi.
he kills those guys.
Mom.
Yes, but he kills them. It's done in such a calm
Yeah, like a
manner that it's almost like
He kills him so gently.
It's very strange. But I have always thought Hal's voice made the movie,
Oh,
No.
Heidi.
Yeah. No,
which is one of my favorite movies.
yeah, so that was it. Isn't that cute, though?
That is so cute.
I have a lot about Hal's voice.
Yeah.
Well, I think your mom would probably enjoy the audiobook. I have been
yeah.
sleeping through it for 10 days. And because it's low on dialogue, it's good to sleep through because no one screams or anything.
Yeah,
so you can fall asleep listening to it and then you don't get awakened by, like I do when I fall asleep during Moby Dick,
No.
because eventually Ahab is going to start yelling. And I have awakened to Ahab screaming before. Well, that was delightful.
Yeah, it was really cute.
Thank you for sharing your cute mom.
Yeah, that was cute. Also, we sound very similar, so it's like me talking to myself.
So, I would like to talk about Hal's motivation in the book and movie. How about that?
That'd be great.
Do you think Hal is evil? Why or why not?
Well, this made me think a lot about Asimov's rules about robots, and I think one of them is like, you can never harm a human. Like, that's like one of the first rules of robotics.
A robot can never harm a human?
Yeah, like I think it's like rule 1 or 2 or something. But like, so like that's like meant to put humans at ease. But obviously, like that's a human-made rule in science fiction. But lots of people said that they were scared of Hal. I wasn't. I was like, shit happens. He's got a mission to do. I could see it overriding things.
I mean, answering that question kind of it takes you back to like AIs and humanity and when you're a person and when you're not. Because I think in order to be evil, you have to consciously choose between good and bad, right? Like that means you have to have a conception of good and bad. Like, this is a bad thing. I mean, I guess he knows. Well, okay, so part of Hal's problem is that he's trying to hold two competing ideas in his brain at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
That he's lying to these people about what they're doing, but he's been programmed to always be helpful and tell the truth and respond truthfully and give information. And so I think all of the bad things he does is sort of a result of that, right? It's like, okay, it's wrong to kill Frank, but killing Frank supports my objective, so my main objective, which is what I'm programmed to do, right?
Yep.
So he's doing this like cold cost benefit analysis while being slightly compromised in his objectivity. I don't think that's evil. I think it's just very, it's like jarringly neutral.
It's the cold equation. So
Exactly. It's
And-
like, yeah.
The reason I asked that is that I've never thought of Hal as evil, but when I was curious about who did Hal's voice and I just Googled Hal 9000, all the Google hits were like the most evil, the most blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I never thought of him as evil. But I want to touch on what you said, Amy, about him being given conflicting instructions, and that's what makes him go off the rails, because I don't think that that's evident from the movie. I think in the movie, it just seems like he kind of just freaks out and it's unclear why. But when you read the book, I think to me, he seems like a victim because he's been given this ultimate objective, which is to get the ship to the moon on Saturn. And the three people who are in hypersleep know what the real mission is, but Dave and Frank don't. And so he has to engage in this duplicity that is counter to his inherent programming. That's why he makes a mistake on saying that there's a problem with their satellite connection. And then he starts doing the killing to cover up the mistake because he's got to keep the secret. And that is not apparent to me from the movie. I mean, after reading it, I can see how it fits together, but it's explicitly clear in the book. And so I assume more people are familiar with the movie than the book.
Yeah.
And so I assume that's why there's this widely held opinion that he's evil.
I agree.
And I should say I don't believe in evil anyway, but
Yeah, no, like I've never been afraid of like, Skynet going operational. Like humans are evil. But like I think kind of like in Speaker for the Dead, what's the name of the
Jane?
Jane, yeah. So like Hal gets very scared. He in the movie he sees them, he lip reads like, we're gonna disconnect Hal. And to him, and in the book, he says he had been threatened with disconnection. He would be deprived of all of his inputs and thrown into an unimaginable state of unconsciousness. To Hal, this was the equivalent of death. So I think he's scared for his own life, too.
That's what I was going to say. I think when he slips into humanity is when he starts functioning in self-preservation, which he does do at some point. In the book, when he jettisons all the air out of the ship, I think that is not a decision he makes to prolong the mission. That is a decision he makes to prolong himself. Yep. And I honestly think self-preservation might be a better Turing test than is he having a conversation with me? But I mean, maybe. I don't know. Obviously, you can argue about that. But up until that point, I think he's just making cost-benefit analyses. But then at that point, something changes.
Yeah. Haley, I like that you read that passage because I love that chapter. I played the audiobook of that chapter for Kevin because Kevin hasn't read it. And I was like, I want you to know what Hal was going
That's
through.
just like the Hal chapter where they just explain his...
I feel bad for Hal.
I did too.
My favorite line in that chapter is where he says that to him being disconnected was like death because having never slept, he did not know that he could wake again.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
Yeah.
So I really like that. I think it gives a lot of insight into him. And that leads me to what I think this book is about. And I think that this book is about identity and humanity.
Yeah.
Explain.
Well, so I think that Clark does a really good job of, in the section where we're following Moonwatcher and his troop of fellow hominids, of identifying what they don't do. And so that separates them from what a human would do. They don't grieve. They don't really remember things from day to day. They kind of are going through rote habits. They interact with the monolith and then they sort of forget about it. And it's engendering these changes in them. But I think the things that he points out that are not happening, for example, when Moonwatcher's father dies and he takes his body and throws it off the cliff and never thinks about it again.
Yeah.
But he says he's left with a slight sense of unease, but he doesn't know what it is because he doesn't really know stuff. So I think he's playing with that. And then here comes the big iPhone screen and starts showing them things that get them thinking and thinking about themselves, because one of the things that it shows them is it shows Moonwatcher basically like a hominid nuclear family looking fat and sassy. They've got, fluffy, sleek hair and plenty of weight on them. And he's like, looks at that and is like, oh, we could be that. And I think at that point, there's a realization of there is a we and there is a me that starts to grow in them. So that happens there. And then I think there's a great bookend when Bowman disconnects Hal, because Hal goes backwards from this very high-level consciousness, and then we see him in real time slide backward to basically ones and zeros.
Yep.
And so I think that's what this book is ultimately exploring.
Meaning that Hal isn't a person in the end. Or like what is
well,
the
he's
significance?
unmade. I think we see humanity be made
There's progress.
over the scope of time, and then at the end we see what it looks like when an identity is unmade. And I don't necessarily think he's saying Hal is or is not a person, but I think we're just seeing the process running in reverse, just like it does with the Star Child. He's evolving, but also literally becoming a baby. So I think there's just a ton of evolution, devolution, those things happening at the same time all throughout the book.
And I think Clark was very, very, very interested in how invention and technology changes people and changes society and how we change around them, like reasons we invent things and then what that does to us, right? So I think dovetailing with that, like this idea of humanity and what humanity is and where we're going and where we came from. Like the first technology was this bone that we use to beat food to death and eat it and then beat these people to death who were competing with us for our food, right? And then that, in the movie is this very famous cut from the bone spinning in the air to the spaceship spinning in the air, right? Mm-hmm. So why did we build the spaceship? We built the spaceship because we may be being attacked by this alien race. We have no idea. We got to survive. We think this is how we survive. Like technology is survival tool, but it's also a
we make it, but it changes us.
We make it, but it changes us. But and so I think that's also part of the story. It's like, what is technology doing to us and our humanity? And in the end, like, yeah, how's it going to affect society? How's it going to affect humanity? At the beginning, he says, the toolmaker says, unlike so many others, they had left descendants. They had not merely become extinct. They had been transformed. The toolmakers had been remade by their own tools. And then later in that same chapter, he says, basically he says something to the effect of, we're making these tools, but we're also in conflict with them. They are like, we're sort of, and they can help or hurt.
And I like, the book does it well. I think the movie does it even better in terms of how it shows the scope of time, which I don't think we can really even grasp. Like, so after the monkeys discover that a bone is a tool, in the book it's like 1 million years later they get language. Like, that's so much time for just monkeys having sex and making more monkeys and having bones as tools, but like they don't even have language yet. And like watching the movie after having not seen it for a while, I was like, these aren't even barely hominids. These are just like straight up monkeys.
And I think that one of the main ways, so the way it, I think, is shown as in a connection with this humanity and evolution and that sort of theme that you were pointing out is that, the way that they kill, so he kills a person with this tool, right? And it's like this very methodical beating to death, even though they're jumping around and yelling when they're doing it. But it's this methodical beating to death. And when Bowman kills Hal, it's an interesting thing. It's like, here's the screwdriver that we've invented and we're using it to slowly and methodically kill this other being, right? And there's a big parallel there. It's like we kill anything that threatens us and we make technology to do that, right? And then Hal can't invent anything. So Hal can only manipulate the things he's been given by people. He can't,
and only ever will.
He can't make any tools to help himself. He can only manipulate, right?
Yeah.
Which cuts him out of humanity. Like you can't be a person if you can't make these tools and advance yourself in this way.
We win.
We win.
All right, so I have a question for you guys, and I had this thought.
Thanks, aliens.
I had this thought while driving with my aunt and my cousin to look at colleges in like 2000. So
yes.
Oh, I was like, when was that?
It was a long time ago.
Time I went to college.
So basically, all right. So we have life. Life is a given on our planet. Life finds a way. If you have a crack in the street,
Life finds a way.
Yeah, clover will grow. People will reproduce. And the point is to it's survival of the fittest. But my question lately is, and maybe this is a question for religion, is to what end? Like, why all this life?
What's the point of all of this?
Why though?
I'm just like, because when you see humans and like in summer you see like just plants and everything, it's just like we gotta live and make more of us and replicate my shitty DNA. But like, why?
I think it's interesting that Clark was kind of saying that we aren't the fittest. It wasn't survival of the fittest. We were given help.
Well, yeah, true. But like,
so now we have the ability.
But like,
to
even why even make us?
Well, the aliens were lonely.
Why give us help?
Lonely sentient nebulas.
Yeah. I don't know. So that's like my overriding life question of like, why does this all exist?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we were like, why do people have an ant farm? Why do I have 2 dogs?
Yeah.
I think they
gotta have meetings somewhere, I guess.
It was easy for them to go places and look at things. And I mean, we do the same thing. It's just on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
Oh, as to the aliens?
Yeah.
And maybe it's because life is so precious. Because like, watching this movie, you realize like just how barren space is. Like between here and the moon, there's not much. Like it's just an empty ass charcoal smelling space.
Smells like steak.
But like Earth, we're great. Like the our atmosphere protects us from like most of the radiation that comes in to give us skin cancer. So
And as we know, radiation causes evolution.
it does. It does. It all comes full circle. Also, I wanted to make during the hominid section a moon joke. A moon.
Moon.
That's a shout out to one of our early episodes.
That's right.
Hominids.
Yeah.
By Robert J. Sawyer, who we're besties with.
Our friend. I love a theme. This was like, I noticed when I was watching the book. Actually, that works.
Yeah, watching the book, reading the movie.
Yeah, I was, the way that the trajectory of the book and the movie is, we start on Earth, we go to space station, we go to moon, we go to Jupiter, we go to Saturn, and then you don't ever go back. Like a lot of the times in movies, okay, now what's happening on Earth? And you'll cut back and see conversations or whatever. But the trajectory of this is always outward, which is, I think, supposed to parallel the way he sees the trajectory of humanity until Bowman goes through his little evolution and comes back as a baby.
He just comes back to take a look, though.
Well,
Maybe. We don't know what
he
he's going to
puts
do.
down that he doesn't know either.
Yeah.
He puts down that nuclear warhead.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'll think of something.
I love that. It's so weird, and I like it.
I love how weird this movie is. Like,
Yeah,
I can just watch it. I'm just like, okay, cool.
I love that Earth takes a pot shot at Starchild when he shows up. Like it's just so us.
Did you think that Earth was taking a shot at
Oh
Starchild?
yeah, I reread it because
I
I
thought
thought
he
maybe
was-
they were having a fight.
Yeah, I thought there was a war.
But then I reread it earlier today. He had returned in time. The alarms would be flashing across radar screens. The great tracking telescopes would be searching the skies.
okay.
History as men knew it was drawing to a close because he was showing up. He became aware of the slumbering cargo of death had awoken. So they took a shot at him.
Oh, I just thought that he arrived in the midst of, someone's firing a missile. And
That's
that was
how I
what
read
was
it
being
first
tracked.
too. Yeah.
Interesting.
I thought maybe because it doesn't ever tell you if the Americans tell anybody about TMA-1. And so I thought maybe the word had gotten out and so a fight had started or something. That's how I read it the first time.
Yeah.
But then I was like, that doesn't make that's very good timing if that's what's going on. So yeah, I think it's really funny that evolution finally shows up and aliens show up and we take a shot at them.
Oh, I wanted to share this quote that is a callback to Philip Jose Farmer's To Our Scattered Body Go. So early on it says, he's talking about like, humans en masse. And he's like, behind every man now alive stands 30 ghosts, for that is the ratio by which the dead now outnumber the living. Since the dawn of time, roughly 100 billion human beings have walked the planet Earth. And they're all on that river with Robert Burton.
I thought of you when I read that quote, actually, the 30 ghosts to every person. I'm like, oh, we should be able to see one.
and some of
Spooky season's
them
coming
will be
up.
wearing windbreakers and puffy vests.
Yeah,
they
so
won't all be in Victorian garb.
You've got like cavemen and like aliens and Nazis and, hippies. So,
And Alice in Wonderland.
yeah. And anything but,
Or at least Lewis Carroll.
I don't know why that
Alice in Wonderland
comforts
was
me.
in Scary. That's right.
You have the same birthday.
That's right.
Yeah, I just think it just comforts me to think like every human being that's ever walked on this planet that we all share that. It's nice.
Yeah. We're all gonna die. That's nice.
Well, but like they like all saw the moon and they all
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
they all hopefully had one good meal with a friend. I don't know.
Do you ever look up at the moon and just become mesmerized by the fact that there's this floating body in the sky that we can
Absolutely.
see and that everybody's been seeing it for a long time?
And
like,
I frequently can't believe how far away it is.
And we can see it.
It's 238,000 miles
you can
away,
just
and
see
you
it.
can just see it.
You
I
can
just
see
think
it.
about that all the time. It's just right there.
I think about how like my cat has never looked at the moon or thought about the moon. She's like, it doesn't even exist. Doesn't
I
matter.
also think about the fact that the sun is a star. Like, really think about that fact. We see stars all the time. Our sun is one of those.
And every other star might have planets. I love that idea.
We are not high.
We're not. We're
We
just
have had a cocktail.
high on space.
Let's see.
This movie and this book are very, it's good for this sort of thing, I think.
yeah.
Oh, I wanted to talk about in 1955, according to this book, astronomers were astonished to find that Jupiter was blasting out millions of horsepower. I thought horsepower was a confusing word on the 10-meter band. So then they say Bowman would sometimes just tune to that frequency and turn it way up and just listen to
Crank
the
it.
Jupiter noises. And so I was like, is that real? And it is real.
It is real,
And
yeah.
we found the audio. And so we're going to play it.
Whoop, whoop.
This may be what exact same thing you're talking about, but you can go on the interwebs and listen to the background radiation of space, which is the sound of the Big Bang,
Oh my God.
which blows my mind
Yeah,
when I
this
think
is on
about
the
it.
NASA website.
Yeah.
Because when Kevin found it, I was like, well, but is that real? Is that from like a flat Earth website? And he was like, no, it's from NASA. I was like, okay.
Space makes noise.
I don't trust the US government anymore, but I mean, I guess NASA doesn't have any reason to lie about farts from Jupiter.
They just like space.
Yeah.
I found a website that will do a deep fake of Hal voice, and so you can have him say anything.
Ooh.
I'm afraid I can't do that, Hugo girl.
I think it's Hugo girl.
So Hal's voice is an interesting topic to me because it started out as like this dude from Brooklyn, and then Kubrick was like, "I'm not into that," and he heard this guy, the guy who ended up doing the voice, whose name is escaping me right now. He heard him narrate a movie or like a 30-minute documentary called The Universe, and so he got him to do the voice. And so this guy is Canadian, the guy who does the voice, and it's important that he's Canadian because Canadian accents to Americans don't sound like anything. They just sound like
neutral,
sort of the platonic ideal of a American dialect, which is kind of funny to me. And I think that's perfect since it's Canada Day. But artificial intelligence has borrowed from the HAL persona, and now maybe unwittingly, a slight hint of Canadianness resides in our phones and interactive devices. Like Alexa sounds a little bit Canadian.
Interesting.
Because like HAL basically informed how we do AI voices
Oh,
going forward.
except that they're all women now.
Yeah, I thought of that.
So the reason it's a woman now is because there's a sort of famous focus group that they did at some
Patriarchy.
point. Yeah, well, women's voices are more soothing to people than men's voices are.
I can see that.
That's funny since we're always described as annoying. We have vocal fry, our voices are whiny.
But people have a lot of thoughts about this voice, and one of my favorite little factoids about it was that Anthony Hopkins says it influenced his performance as the serial killer Hannibal Lecter in The Silence of the Lambs.
Wow.
And if you think about it, it's like
Ooh,
it's
my mom
right
loves
there.
it.
It's right there. If you think about it, it's like, oh, Clarice, it's the same
Yeah.
thing.
The Silence of the Lambs.
And I really, really liked this description. So Kubrick said he liked it because the voice is neither patronizing nor is it intimidating. It's not pompous, but it's not overly dramatic or actorish, but it's interesting. And then my favorite description, I think, was it's a sarcastic drip of a drawing room melodrama that also carries the disinterested vibe of a polite sociopath.
He's a little sinister sounding to me, but maybe that's just because I know how it all ends.
It's because he's so flat, It's like there's no emotion in there, and yet he's very clearly responding with feeling. Like he's got sarcasm. When he says, I know I've gotten things wrong in the past, Dave, but I can promise you that everything will be great going forward. You're like, come on.
Like, there's a part of me that doesn't believe him as a robot because he is so eloquent. Like, I expect my robots to be a little bit more non-human. So
I wonder if they do that on purpose so that we don't get creeped out by them.
Yeah, because like Siri and Alexa, like they always sound like, or like our deep fake Hals, like they don't get the pronunciation quite right. So like the fact that his is flawless, and because it is a human, I had a little bit of trouble suspending my disbelief that this is actually a robot. He's just perfectly on sync. He uses adverbs. Like, it was wild.
Yeah.
But I think for me, that's part of why I see him as a person. And I have a soft spot for AIs. I'm very much in the camp of a lot of the things that we read. I'm like, yes, that's a person. So to me, like, it makes sense that he would sound like that because he gets it.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Anyway, that was my thoughts on Hal voice.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I am the kind of person that does not thank Alexa. So, but you might be.
I don't use Alexa.
Oh, like
because I think AI are people, and so it freaks me out. But if I did, I would probably be polite to Alexa.
Yeah, I mean, I am not rude to Alexa, but I'm very clearly like, this is a device. So
I read somewhere that you shouldn't be rude to Alexa in front of your kids because they'll learn to treat people badly.
I read that too. They don't. They say like, don't be like bossy, and still say. But then they were like, but be sure your kids understand that Alexa's not a person. And I'm like, how do you have that conversation?
Yeah.
Be nice, but not too nice. don't like offer to buy her stuff. So weird.
And don't buy all the things she offers you.
Yeah. No kidding. But to be fair, I think that some people have that niceness out of a fear of like a robot uprising.
I have that.
See, I do not. I have so many worries on this planet and this life and this brain, but like, it's never that robots are going to kill me. It's more likely that like some random
robots are not our problem.
I don't think robots want to kill us, but I think if they become sentient and we've been like kicking them around for forever, why wouldn't they?
I would.
Yeah, right. I know. Like
it's like any uprising ever.
They would have a right to defend themselves. So I'm just like, I'm not going to use an Alexa, but if I do encounter one, I'm going to be friendly and polite to her.
So never even Siri on your phone?
No, I've never used it.
Wow. Sometimes I'll like accidentally be like, Siri, oh shit.
No, I have it turned off.
Oh.
I don't really use it on my phone, but I definitely have asked Alexa what the time is
I'll
and what
do
the
it.
weather is.
I mainly use it when I'm driving and I want to text somebody. It's like she'll send it for me.
Oh, I will do that in the phone.
yeah.
I mean, in the car.
It's
Yeah.
just safe. So,
true.
yeah.
Okay. How
Speaking
about
of using your phone to text your friend.
do you want to do future stuff that he got right and wrong?
So much he got right. iPads.
Yeah, the whole tablet and the like.
Oh, man.
Instant ongoing news
Oh,
feed,
yeah.
and then he was like, "There's so much garbage in there." And then, like you were saying earlier, Amy, about how is it good or is it bad? How does it influence us? And Haywood Floyd, in the second section of the book on his journey to the moon, has a little miniature version of that conversation with himself about basically he's like doom scrolling while he's on the moon plane, and he's like, "There's just so much nonsense." He says, what does he say? Millions of words sprayed into the ether. I love that. That's exactly what we're doing. That's what we're doing right now.
And then he talks about how news in a utopia would be boring, but like, and there's so much information, but it's all bad.
yeah. So he considers both sides of it. He's like, this seems like this kind of sucks, but also if it didn't suck, it would be pretty boring.
So I also like this. He said, and he began to read the Odyssey, which of all books spoke to him most vividly across the gulfs of time. I too love the Odyssey.
This is the Odyssey. The book is kind of the Odyssey.
Well, truly, but like
Certainly an Odyssey.
But I love ancient Greece.
it's in the title.
That's a good point, Lori.
See, in the intro, there were some titles that I definitely did not approve of that were floating around.
Of the movie?
And the book, like they were just going to call it other stuff that I can't remember at the
yeah,
moment,
okay,
but I read them and I was like, eh.
So at one point, Arthur C. Clarke got very disillusioned because he was a big fan of instant communication. I mean, in 19
And Sybils.
yeah, but at some point he got a little bit disillusioned because someone presented the idea of pornography on demand to him, and he got really upset about it. And so,
If only he knew.
so I think that made him think about the good side and the bad side of this instant communication, digital information thing.
Interesting.
Which is interesting.
That reminds me, and this might belong somewhere else in our podcast, but the analogy between spacemen and seamen in terms of like, like you're gone for 3 years and like there's no women.
That's why I said the last book was Star Trek. Star Trek. Whether we read the Terror, is Star Trek, because it's the same. Spacemen, seamen, same thing.
But listen to this.
Okay.
All right. So he says they're talking about, how hard it is to be a man in space with no sex. So hard for years or months. I think this was like months, but whatever.
Well, this was years, though.
Yeah.
This plan was like at least 3 to 5 years, I think.
It was true, indeed notorious, that seamen had compensations at other ports. Unfortunately,
I forgot all about this part.
Unfortunately, there were no tropical islands full of dusky maids beyond the orbit of Earth. I was
Boo.
so they're like, astronauts have it the worst. There's no native women.
Digital pornography. He was very upset about it.
So the next line is, the space medics, of course, had tackled this problem with their usual enthusiasm. The ship's pharmacopoeia provided adequate, though hardly glamorous, substitutes. Is it just a bunch of fleshlights in a cabinet? Like,
Is it Viagra?
What is it?
That's exactly what I was
A bunch of fleshlights and KY in a cabinet.
Ew.
Adequate, but not
Where
exciting.
does the KY go
Well,
in
and
zero
they-
gravity?
And they talk earlier, too, about like, at first they chart.
They have to vacuum sealed. Okay, sorry.
Oh, yeah, but like they talk about like how some girls said that they would wait, but then like it became very clear that they wouldn't.
Oh, yeah, that part was really kind of funny. And good for them.
No, of course they won't. Yeah, dusky maids. Oh no.
The dusky.
I think
maid.
I'm gonna link a couple articles I read about Arthur C. Clarke's futurism, like his predictions and stuff, in the show notes if we don't get to it, because it's interesting stuff, but we may not have time to get into all of it.
Do you want to do future stuff, or is there something else you're burning to talk about, either of you?
Oh, I have so much.
But you have a burning desire to talk about
The
anything.
only thing I wanted to say was, remember in 2020 when they found that monolith in the desert that someone put there?
Yeah,
That was nice.
I forgot about that.
No, I wish I could have gone to see that.
That's right.
Is that what caused all this?
Maybe we should put it back. I don't know.
Bury it back 30 feet
Put
under.
it back.
I was wondering if someone found it like a box buried somewhere and opened it up, and then now here we are. It's Pandora's box.
Yeah, I don't know. But I just remembered that. I was like, oh.
When you read the book and then you saw the movie and there was a literal baby hovering in space above the Earth, is that what you pictured when you read the book?
I don't remember.
A literal baby?
It's hard because
That was a real choice.
Because I read the book last year also, and I had seen the movie previously. I think I told you guys that I had a boyfriend who was in a depressed period and watched this movie a lot. And so I I didn't really watch it with him, but I was aware of Hal killing everyone, and that kept happening on the TV in our apartment. So I had too many preconceived ideas about the book and the movie. I don't remember.
I saw the movie before this podcast situation. I had seen the movie one time before and very much disliked it.
I remember.
Very much disliked it.
Oh yeah, we remember.
This time, though, having read the book and then watched the movie, I really enjoyed it.
I mean, I think anybody can agree that it's kind of a boring movie for fast stretches, but it's so visually stunning.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's all practical effects, which I know is like, everyone says that these days, but I love it.
I just didn't understand what they were going for in the movie.
It's hard to
because he
understand,
doesn't
yeah.
explain anything, and he did that on purpose.
Yeah.
So and I am the kind of person that I have to have some I am not okay with just absolute only have speculation about what this movie is about.
Yeah.
It just didn't.
Well,
it made me nervous.
I love that part of, so when it initially came out, it kind of flopped. They were like, who's seeing this movie? And then like hippies were like dropping acid and being like, this is great. And that's a great experience.
Clark
honestly.
said in the intro that Rock Hudson stormed out of a screening and said, "Can someone tell me what the hell this is?"
That's kind of how I felt, honestly.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's.
I went to
it's
see
a
with my
lot.
friend Brad, and we walked out, and I looked at him. I was so mad at him. I was like, what was that?
Yeah, and I think I had seen it all the way through and been sort of like, all right, well, that was a movie. And then I read it, and I didn't remember it because I typically, if I watch something I don't like it that much, I'm just like, well, I forgot about that. But then I read it, and we watched it last summer after I read it, and I was like, oh, this is great, but because now I know what's going on.
That's exactly how I felt.
And yeah, and like you remember little details like the Velcro shoes, and then you see it in the movie.
Oh,
like,
I love them.
I think it helps to watch it once and hate it, read the book, and then watch it again and love it.
The only details that I walked away from that movie remembering were the red chairs in the space station, and
Oh, they're
then
so pretty.
and Hal's eye, like Hal's.
Hal's eye is so spooky.
I mean, it sticks with you.
I like knowing Hal's internal battle.
I also, and I think that helps so much.
Yeah, and I find it, like I say over and over again, I love a sad or a sentimental AI, so I find it very moving. So watching it now, I'm like, oh, poor Hal, he's
And then
all
the
torn
end-
up inside.
The other part that helps, I think, a lot is when you get to when Bowman gets to his hotel room in the end. I thought the book did that better.
For sure, I think so,
but,
too.
You have to explain
having that
yeah.
explanation helped me watch that part. I'm just not a
Well, and
trippy person, so
like most things in my life, pop culture wise, I saw it on The Simpsons before I saw it in real life. So like I remember seeing like the monkey bone scene, like probably like in
when
1998.
Homer knocks over the monolith.
Yeah,
Is that the one?
Like I mean, like it's happened to me with so many pieces of like cultural content, Rear Window, and like just I saw the distilled Simpsons version first, and then like now when I watch it, I'm like, I've seen this before.
And now there's the monkey scene in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh yeah, that's
The monkeys
right.
with, well, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but if you've seen this, when you see that scene in Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is wonderful, it's great.
true.
All right, shall we move on to feminist favorite?
I don't have a feminist favorite because there's not very many women in this book.
I made a little list of all the women in the book,
I mean, the flight attendants.
so it's kind of my
The slim flight attendant.
The list is my misogynist moment. Yeah.
Well, I have a feminist favorite. Should I do that?
Yes.
My feminist favorite is in the second section, the middle section, where Haywood Floyd is traveling to the moon to go talk to everybody about the monolith. I love that he has a classic working mother's pang of guilt about leaving his children on Earth with the nanny. And he thinks to himself, because his wife is deceased, and he feels guilt over not having remarried to give them a second parent. Now, you could go back and forth on what it means for him to wish that he had remarried.
Yeah.
But he feels bad that he's happy about going to the moon.
Yeah.
So he likes his job. He's excited about this work trip, and then he feels bad about it because his kids are back on Earth. And I was like, this is such like modern working mom vibes.
Yeah.
Lean in.
He's trying to have it all.
It's that whole thing. And I was like, I like the idea that he has kids and he feels bad about them.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
I was thinking about this book is kind of like Arthur C. Clarke. Well, hold on. Who wrote Foundation? That was Asimov.
Yeah.
So a lot of times the books that we read, the women are presented as like secondary minor characters with lots of flaws, or there's just like not a lot of women in this book. And I think this book can be read as like slight by omission. Like every character in this is male. So like even though there's not like a lot of like anti-women things, there's just no women in this book.
It's very Mad Men in space.
Yes. It
Yeah.
very mid-century modern in space.
The movie
Dudes are strong.
did a little better than the book. But
Yes, Stanley Kubrick threw us some crumbs by having some women in the room who
Yeah.
weren't secretaries.
Yeah,
they were
talking.
doctors
Yeah,
and
yeah, that's
science people. But yeah, they they were there, but they weren't doing stuff. But I'll take a little tokenization in 1968. I'll take it.
He turned important spaceman Dimitri into a woman named Elena.
Yeah.
That was an important moment.
Yeah, but I think it's another classic example that, we are now seeing the results of this, where it's like, we get pushback from people that are like, how dare you have a POC main character or a female main character? But I'm like, for so many years, there was no representation.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm fine with it. So,
my feminist favorite was, I love those stewardesses. They were queens up there in space, being absolutely poised in zero gravity.
when they
And
walk like up the ceiling.
I mean,
Oh,
so
I
cool.
love that scene. It's so
I
cool.
love them.
I don't even think she needed to do it that way, but like, it was.
She was like, I'm gonna go.
I'm just gonna do it the cool
I'm gonna go
way.
the long way around.
And she's like, I only have one customer. I can afford to take the long route.
Yeah, and I love the pace with because the Velcro shoes. Like I thought about that. I was like, that would be really hard. But she was just like,
they look
boom,
so
boom,
graceful.
boom.
I loved them. They were my favorite.
This movie's beautiful in all the small details like that. I love it.
The movie is absolutely beautiful.
There's such attention to detail in the spaceport when you hear in the background over the like customer service speaker, a lady's blue cashmere sweater has been found. And I was like, whoa. I mean, they really left nothing to chance.
And like the way that he directed the conversations, they actually feel pretty natural. Which I continuously was impressed with. And yeah, the time in the spaceport, you felt like you were in a freaking airport. There's your Space Hojo, there's your Space Hilton.
Yes.
I mean, it was just great.
He's got his pin.
your little phone booth. By the way, very quickly, I would like to talk about his daughter. He calls his daughter on the video phone. Are you going to talk about it?
I love her.
I love the authentic chaos of like a 5-year-old. He's like, what do you want for your birthday? And she says, a phone. And he's like, we have phones. And then she goes, a bush baby. And I was like, do you think they just let that little girl ad-lib
I
that?
hope so.
And she was just
wondered.
like spitting out nouns that she knows. And they were like, all right. Because who like scripted a kid being like, a bush baby? Maybe
baby
they
is
were
60
like
years old now.
de rigueur in 1968.
Yeah,
I don't know. But
there's no way that kid was acting.
it's
like
so crazy.
when her mother's in the bathroom. Come on, there's no way that was a line.
Yeah.
Like, where's mom? In the bathroom. Like, it was so good.
It was like somebody's home movie of their kid.
Yeah, and like I like that the book is like just detailing his experience in the airport, basically. But I was like, yeah, just tell me more.
But I love that like sort of presages Zoom.
Oh,
Skype,
totally.
You know what I mean? Oh, my favorite technology thing is that he predicted seatback movies.
Yes.
Like it's just
Comfort Plus.
I looked it up to make sure he did, that wasn't around then. It didn't come
No,
out
it
until
definitely
88.
was not,
So
yeah.
anyway.
Misogynist moment time.
Yes. We'll probably share this, but so again, with the sailing analogs. So the mini ships, they were usually christened with feminine names, perhaps in recognition of the fact that their personalities were sometimes slightly unpredictable.
Yeah, that's on my list.
Yeah,
Do you
I
have
mean-
what he says immediately thereafter?
I stopped it.
Like a paragraph later, he says, the pod seldom gave trouble. Which one is it? Are they unpredictable or do they seldom give trouble?
Women are very compliant.
Well, and I at least was like slightly unpredictable.
Oh my gosh, Floyd's daughter was portrayed by Vivian Kubrick.
Oh, cute. Okay, cute. That's
So
his
she
daughter.
really was just naming words she knew. Phone!
She just wanted a bush baby. Hippopotamus.
I think that's the name of the episode. Phone, bush baby. My misogynist moment was the fact that so he goes to the moon, makes a point of telling us that there are. This is in the book, not the movie, but he makes a point of telling us there are at least 600 women there, and that they are all highly trained scientists and technicians. And yet, when he goes to the executive territory of the moon, there are still girl assistants.
That was what gave me the Mad Men on the Moon vibes.
Are they highly trained girl assistants?
He can't decide.
Are they scientists?
I mean, you can be a highly trained assistant.
Are they scientists and yet girl assistants?
A lab assistant can be a scientist.
I think he could not bear to just give us that one thing.
And to not tell us, don't worry, the girls are doing the typing. Don't worry.
Don't worry.
The typing pool on the moon.
You guys pretty much got all of mine.
The trim stewardess, the charming little stewardess who gives him the Balinese dance on the shuttle.
I will defend him a little bit in that, like, in the 60s, like, stewardesses were, like, a thing.
That's true.
So,
And they probably were trim and charming. They used to have weight guidelines.
Oh, yeah, for
Maybe they
sure.
still do. I don't know.
How about those hairnets they had to wear?
Oh, so interesting. Because heaven forbid they have short hair, so they've just got to bag their
That's
hair
what I
up.
was like. Can they not just shave their heads?
you can't have lesbians in space.
It's funny because if you can't see their hair anyway, why can't they just have short hair? But
Thank you.
I feel the
then
same
their
way about...
husbands wouldn't like it when they were at home. Okay, boob talk.
I didn't have any. It's a weirdly sexless book.
Which makes sense.
Yes. I did not mind the little white booty shorts thirst trap scenes. That's my boob talk.
Penis parade.
Yes, penis parade.
They were cute. They had
Booty
good bodies.
bumping.
And like the boxing, like
Yeah, no, the objectifying here was purely Franken Bowman.
Yes.
the female gaze.
Yes. Stanley gave us the female gaze.
Fantastical foods. There's such
There's
a
so
good
many
litany of food.
There's so many.
Oh yeah, when he talks about the freeze dried
juice,
food,
food, glop.
chops, steaks, eggs, any kind. Because I was only thinking about like over easy, but apparently hard boiled would
Any
count.
kind of egg.
Poached.
And don't forget the hunting gathering on the savannah.
Yeah. Although in the movie though, like they're just eating like baby
food.
Yeah. I was
Yeah,
like,
it's
ooh.
slop. That's what I was reading. The juice food, the glop food, that's all in the movie.
Which I guess is kind of true. So
They did have the sandwiches.
one of my favorite facts about space food is like you can't have bread in space because of crumbs, but like so you eat peanut butter and jelly on a tortilla. Because tortillas don't crumb.
I didn't know that.
Oh, I have Googled many times what you eat in space.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. So my fantastical food is the blue puffy stuff at the end.
Oh yeah.
When he's in the hotel room, and I really missed that in
I was
the movie.
so upset that
when he
wasn't in
gets
the
to
movie.
the
I
hotel
wish it
room, and
was.
it's like
It makes so much sense.
it's like I imagine it's kind of like Seinfeld's kitchen with all the cereal boxes that are visible, and then every one you open is full of delicious blue cotton candy.
Well, and I feel like in the book it was more like an actual like Hilton and not
Yeah.
like a weird neoclassical suite.
Yes.
It was all
Yes.
much more literal. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is kind of cool.
And I
like
liked the idea that it was a recreation of something they had seen beamed from a television show 2 years ago, because that's like, I think, a thing that exists in popular culture. Maybe that's where it comes from, where we are like, yeah, we're just beaming all this stuff out to space.
Yep.
And I think that isn't there something similar in Three Body Problem where they've like received certain information about us? And I think that's something that we all sort of think about. And I wonder if it's rooted in this.
And from Contact, both the movie and the book. So like,
yeah.
we received back the first things that ever went out, which was like, a depiction of Hitler in space from like the 30s.
Yes, that's right.
Again,
Maybe
'cause
that's
this
what I'm
movie
thinking of.
Affects every piece of media in science fiction. It's amazing. So
Man.
But yeah, I was sorry there was no blue puffy. I love when he opens the cans of beer and there's blue puffy stuff in the beer. It's so funny.
well, and then I was so taken aback by his like, and then I hated the water, and I was like, it tastes like nothing.
I liked that he could predict the internet, but he could not predict that we would not always have those pull-off pop tops off the top of the beer.
It is amazing the things that you don't.
I
think
know.
about.
Well, and like in the hotel room, they had a video phone, but a phone book.
Oh,
And there
yeah.
are like tablets with like
yeah.
internet and information, but we still have a phone book.
So close yet so far.
Yeah. Did anybody have soap stuff? I don't.
Yes.
Oh, what you got?
From the movie?
Go.
Hal can lip read.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
They're
Of course he can.
And they're like hiding in the pod to talk about it. And like,
how
it was,
would he learn about like?
How would he? I guess he does nothing but watch them talk. So I guess you
Yeah.
could figure it out. But I thought that was very like, that was a little soapy to me.
I like it. I like it.
The Savannah drama? No.
Special segment, Moby Dick moment.
Oh,
Did you catch that?
maybe. I mean, there's a lot of sailing. metaphors.
Oh no, no ma'am. So when Poole is killed by Hal, and he's floating around in space, and Dave is watching him, and Dave sees his arm move, and Dave, like, part of him wants to hope that means that he's like, I'm alive, but Dave knows in his heart that he's not, and he says, Poole's gesture was an echo of Captain Ahab's
Aw, I
when,
missed that.
lashed to the flanks of the white whale, his corpse had beckoned the crew of the Pequod to their doom.
Oh, I missed that completely. I'm so embarrassed.
Moby Dick moment.
Well done.
All right.
Oh, we should have that every time.
I will find a way.
Anything else?
I mean, this is very clearly Star Wars.
Well, did you like the book?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
I did. I like it a lot. I did. Star Wars?
It's definitely Star Wars.
I say it's Lord of the Rings because Saturn has rings.
I think it's Star Wars because there's one shot of one of the pods, and it looks just like the shot from A New Hope when it's the escape pod from the Tantive 4, Princess Leia's ship.
You just were serving Patton Oswalt on Parks and Rec.
Boba Fett comes up out of the Sarlacc pit. He reaches up. There's a beat. And then
Wait, do you want more proof when Dave is going through the circular tunnel? It looks like Luke in Empire Strikes Back going up to meet Vader for his battle.
I hate to tell you this, but this is The Hobbit.
No!
I hate to be the one to tell you this. We leave home to unknowingly confront a powerful enemy. We have an adventure.
An unexpected journey.
We return home changed.
There are literal spaceships. There is light speed.
I'm sorry, I don't want to tell you this, but I have to tell you.
We go there and back again.
We go there and back again.
There is a force. There's a space baby.
I'm sorry.
And there are rings.
But as we all know, really, it's the Odyssey.
Although there's no space witches.
But there's a Cyclops.
Oh, there's how?
Oh, he's like Sauron's eye.
All right. No, you don't say that.
I said it. I said it.
No, this is the Odyssey. We're stopping there. Because also, there's a life raft. I don't know.
There's a life raft. Haley's grasping at straws. All right. Coming up next time, Among Others by Joe Walton. And Amy, tell us about your special.
There's going to be some bonus information from Joe Walton's history of the Hugos that I'm going to hopefully intersperse into our discussion about.
Okay. I look forward to hearing the highlights.
Yeah.
I'm going to try my best to be positive about this fantasy book.
I think you'll like it more than you think you will.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the show. Rate, review, and subscribe. Bye.
Bye. Oh,
My whole thumbnail just came off.
Oh, God.
It's a fake nail, not my actual nail.